This week, CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road with the lost and found story that has an ending that you have to see to believe. And don't worry, I won't let the cat out of the bag.
That first set was like the day we brought him home.
Before they had children.
He was all ear.
Before they were even married.
Oh, yeah.
Jason and Liz McHenry of Annapolis, Maryland say this was their baby, a cat named Ritz.
I mean, at that point, they are your kids.
Yeah, it is a member of the family.
At least he was. Until 2006, when Ritz bolted out the apartment door, down the stairs, and never returned.
We spent months, looking all around, talking to the shelters, and yeah, anything we could think of, we tried.
When did you finally give up?
I don't know that you ever really give up.
In fact, she still has his lost pet poster.
It felt like if I deleted it, it never happened, and he'd be forgotten, and I couldn't do that.
And so, her sliver of hope remained through that decade and into the next, and into the next. 16 years came and went until 6 miles from Jason's old apartment building, a woman found a stray cat living in this trailer park. The cat was in such terrible shape, she brought it over to this veterinary office to be put down. But before doing so, as is standard procedure, the vet scanned the cat for a microchip. At that very moment, Jason got an automated text. Cat Ritz has been found.
I was like, well, that's got to be a mistake. I mean, I'm thinking they recycled the microchip number. And she's upstairs and she overhears me. She goes, what did you just say?
He's been gone for 16 years. I didn't think this was possible.
Come on, Ritz.
And yet, there he is, the record holder. No pet reunited because of a microchip has ever been lost longer. Today, despite 2 bum legs, Ritz is on the mend. He already has his favorite chair picked out and is now enjoying the attention of the brother and sister he never knew.
You want that?
Ritz has a very sweet demeanor, which means he may have been a house cat at some point. But there's no telling. All we know for certain is that for 16 years, Ritz was lost, but hope was never.
There you go.
Steve Hartman, CBS News, on the road.
Finally tonight, CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road for an update on a story about perseverance and resilience.
A lot of dogs think they're human, but Dexter takes it to a whole nother level, to the point where I can now safely say, I have seen everything. As we first reported about a year ago, Dexter lives in Ouray, Colorado, where this bicolor, bipedal Brittany Spaniel turns heads wherever he goes. Dexter's owner, Kenty Pasick, says this isn't a trick she taught. It's an adaptation he made after a near-death experience.
Hey, come on.
When Dexter was a puppy, he escaped his yard, darted into traffic, and got hit by a car. He lost one front leg and the other was badly damaged. So everyone assumed, to get around, he would need some kind of adaptive equipment. And he did use a wheelchair for a while, until one day when Kenty set the pooch at the foot of her porch without the wheelchair.
And I ran in to go get my cup of coffee, came out, and he was right here where he is right now. And I was like, how is this going on?
How did you figure it out?
I put him back down there and I grabbed my phone to see what was going on.
Here is the video she recorded.
And I was like, oh, we're into something totally different.
You never know where life's gonna take you.
You never know.
Since we first told this story, Dexter, who was already a minor celebrity in Ouray, has become a major celebrity across the nation, taking to the skies for appearances in TV shows and pet expos. He has pranced in the shadow of New York's skyscrapers and Washington's cherry trees. And along the way, this dog has gathered more fans and followers than a lot of our most popular humans.
Follow him on Instagram. Oh, good.
The whole thing takes absurdity to new heights. But to many, Dexter is no joke. In this pile of mail he receives monthly
Comes in droves.
are hundreds of letters of heartfelt gratitude.
I'm recovering from intensive radiation treatments for breast cancer, and you certainly bring joy to my day.
Where humans see obstacles,
Just
often dogs beg to differ.
Dexter shows us, why aren't you out there doing the things you want to do? Because he has.
Off he goes.
And in doing so has proven that sometimes getting knocked down is the only way to see how tall you stand. Steve Hartman on the road in Ouray, Colorado.
When it comes to pets, no country in the world comes close to the United States. Dogs are America's favorite, followed by cats, fish, and birds. CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road with a pet that didn't quite make the list.
When you see an alligator coming down the street towards you, it's only natural to either drop your jaw or panic that he'll drop his. But alligator expert Joe Henney says his alligator poses no threat.
I've never met an alligator that will not bite you. You fool around the head like this, their instinct is to grab you. He does not do it. You can reach in there and rub his tongue. He refuses to close his mouth. We don't know why. Yeah, there you go.
Wally was found in a pond at Disney World. He had to go. And since in Florida it's illegal to relocate alligators to another spot in the wild, Joe agreed to take him in. Today, Wally lives on Cheetos and chicken legs in Joe's house near Hershey, Pennsylvania, without a cage.
Good boy.
At this point, I should probably say what should go without saying. Don't try this at home. Joe says there may not be another alligator on the planet as gentle, and certainly no other as cuddly.
I don't think I'd be here right now if this was just another guy with an alligator. Not that there's a whole lot of those out there. But there's a special bond between you two.
Very special. He is my emotional support alligator.
You heard right. Emotional support alligator. A few years ago, after Joe lost some people close to him, he says he fell into a deep depression. And about that same time, he says Wally began behaving differently, more affectionate, almost like he sensed his depression.
I laid on the couch and I wake up, he'd be laying on my head, and I knew it was for a long period of time because I had his whole jaw print on my face.
You don't wake up when you have an alligator on your face?
I was so depressed, I did not.
It also marked a new chapter in their relationship. Joe started bringing Wally everywhere, from the doctor's office to the drive-thru.
You can pet him.
He's been to a splash park
Wally.
and was even ring bearer in a wedding. They are together day and, yes, night too. And as a result, Joe says his depression is dramatically improved.
I'll get lonely and stuff like that there, and he seems to sense that stuff, and he'll come up and he'll give me a hug, and makes me feel loved.
He may be an alligator, but I can attest, those are not crocodile tears. Steve Hartman on the road near Hershey, Pennsylvania. A lot of kids go to the park to see ducks, but 8-year-old Kylie Brown of Freeport, Maine, takes her duck to see the park. As we first reported a few years ago, Snowflake goes into the pond and then returns when called, because Snowflake truly believes that Kylie is his mother, and the duck is not alone in this delusion.
I'm his mom.
But you're not really his mom.
Yep, I'm his mom.
How did you first find out?
That he was a duck?
No, that...
Kylie is unbearably cute. And since I never did recover to ask that question again, let me just tell you that Kylie first noticed Snowflake's attachment the day the Browns brought him home.
Look. He follows her.
For whatever reason, the duck imprinted on Kylie and just had to be by her side, no matter what the hour. When Snowflake refused to stay in the backyard, Kylie's parents, Ashley and Mike, say they had no choice but to give him a diaper and make him a house duck.
He goes everywhere the ducks are allowed and almost everywhere they're not allowed.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever had a 2-year-old or a 4-year-old that wouldn't leave home without its blankie.
Anxiety.
She would not leave home without her duck. And at that point, nothing's negotiable.
Snowflake goes to the beach in summer and sledding in winter. He's been to soccer practice, gone on sleepovers. He even went trick-or-treating as Olaf, the snowman from Frozen. And over time, because they both sincerely believe they belong together, Snowflake and Kylie have formed a bond like most of us will never know.
It's special that I know that that's the type of person that she's going to be.
Since we first told this story in 2016, Kylie has gotten even more motherly. She taught Snowflake how to read, or at least not eat the words.
Beak away.
She also taught him the value of community service, signing him up to be a therapy duck. And, of course, she knows just what to do whenever her little one needs help, falling asleep. Kylie really is going to make a great mom someday, mostly because she always has been.
You know, someday he's going to grow up and go to college.
What?
Steve Hartman, on the road in Freeport, Maine.
Birds of a feather may flock together, but CBS's Steve Hartman found two that only have eyes for each other. Here's tonight's On the Road.
At the New England Wildlife Center in Massachusetts, they treat thousands of injured animals every year. But Executive Director Zach Mertz says one recent case stands out from all the rest.
This was a first for us. Here's the goose.
The patient was a Canada goose they named Arnold. Arnold had a badly damaged foot.
And as we're doing it, we're prepping him for anesthesia, giving him meds. We hear this faint tapping at the door.
Tapping at the door?
Yeah. We all kind of turned around simultaneously and we're pretty shocked.
Zach says it was a visitor for Arnold.
We don't allow that, but we definitely had to make an exception in this case.
An exception for a spouse.
Don't worry, he's in good hands.
How did she know that her mate was in here?
My only guess is that she saw us capture him the day before, and he was probably hunking in the cage overnight.
After surgery, the staff moved Arnold to the floor for recovery, where his mate, who they named Amelia, comforted and preened him. The avian embodiment of in sickness and in health.
Geese do mate for life, but if something dreadful happens to one, the other typically remarries. But not Amelia. She wasn't leaving her man. No honking way.
Throughout his convalescence, now in its 4th week, they've been putting Arnold in a pen out back, an hour daily for fresh air. And every time, without fail, Amelia comes running to her gander, marches right into his cage in full-throated surrender.
I think it really gave us all a new respect for how social these animals are and sort of the depth that they have in their emotions.
I know this isn't your field per se, but is this love?
You know, I don't know if it's love, but they really make each other calm and happy, and yeah, I think we could all learn something from them.
Arnold was released this week, back into the wings of his beloved. And although the couple was in no rush to fly the coop, they won't stick around for long. Still, hopefully, their example will stay with us, because what's good for the goose is crucial for mankind. Steve Hartman, on the road in Barnstable, Massachusetts.
Maybe it's fate, but sometimes the right person comes into your life just when you need them the most. Here's CBS's Steve Hartman on the road.
According to her mother, Lacey, 6-year-old Raylyn Nast of Fort Smith, Arkansas, has always been a daddy's girl.
She was very proud of her dad. She always wanted to introduce her dad to just about anybody.
Until a couple weeks ago, when her father, Davy, died of colon cancer. He was just 41, and Raylyn was just devastated.
It was a cry that was pure heartbreak.
Enter Emily Beineman, who happened to be jogging with her dog Blue the day of the visitation. She was running past the funeral home when all of a sudden she heard a tiny voice call out from the chapel steps.
She was like, "May I pet your puppy?" And I was like, "Yeah, like of course, like as long as your parents don't mind."
That's what you said to her?
Yeah.
Not knowing?
Not knowing, yeah.
Raylyn explained that her dad was lying inside, gave Blue a huge hug, and then gave Emily a stunning invitation.
I asked her if she wanted to come in and see my dad.
That's right. This still proud daughter invited that random jogger to meet her father.
Emily was hardly dressed for a funeral, and she knew just walking in the door would cause a scene. But she also knew this was the last time that little girl would be able to introduce her daddy to anyone. So she followed her gut and followed Raylyn down the aisle.
Everyone was kind of looking around like, where did she come from? And she came in right next to Ray, like they'd known each other for so long. There was that connection there.
How could two people bond so quickly?
She helped me feel better
Raylyn says it should be no mystery.
by her kindness.
Raylyn and Emily got together again this week and plan to stay friends forever.
Sweet.
Of course, no one will ever replace her dad. But Raylyn is clearly on the path to a better place.
Yes.
Thanks to the kindness of a stranger
Oh, those are good kisses.
and the healing power of a warm puppy. Steve Hartman on the road in Fort Smith, Arkansas. Not long ago, friends and fans gathered to pay their final respects to one of the most unlikely celebrities in sport, Zippy Chippy.
Zippy loved being a racehorse. He just wasn't very good at it.
And farcical as it may look,
He's going to live forever in my heart.
unofficial Zippy fan club president Roseanne Frieri says this memorial is hardly horseplay.
It could be a joke to some people, but the people that know the real story about Zippy, they're heartbroken.
Zippy Chippy was born into a racing royal family. He's the grandson of Kentucky Derby winner Northern Dancer. And Zippy, too, could have been one of the all-time greats. If only, at the start of every race, he just would have started.
They're off, and dwelling in the gate is Zippy Chippy.
Zippy never quite understood why everybody was in such a rush.
Trailing the field.
He lost every race he was in, 0 for 100.
Zippy Chippy finishes last.
101 if you count the time he lost to a minor league baseball player. That cemented his reputation as the losingest racehorse in history. This is Zippy back in 2000 with his owner and faithful companion, Felix Monserrati. Felix died a few years ago, but he never gave up on this horse.
Zippy's like my son. I like him a lot. And every time he runs, he made me feel good.
Zippy lived out the last leg of his life here at the Old Friends at Cabin Creek Retirement Farm in upstate New York. He died last month at the age of 31 and is now being celebrated, finally, as the winner that he was.
He was loved. We'll miss him.
Not a single person even mentioned his racing record. Quite to the contrary.
In a sport that winning is everything, Zippy taught us that losing is a normal thing.
Do you think people see themselves in Zippy a little bit?
Oh, yeah. I think we all see ourselves in Zippy because it was always on Zippy's terms. Whatever Zippy wanted, Zippy did.
At the Kentucky Derby, all that matters is speed. But Zippy reminds us there's more to life than running for the roses, that sometimes it's better to just stop and smell them. Steve Hartman on the road in Greenfield Center, New York. It takes real tenacity to make it on the U.S. women's sled hockey team. But what sets 36-year-old Christy Gardner apart and what brought us here to Lewiston, Maine, isn't her doggedness. It's her dog.
Let's go.
This is Moxie, Christy's service dog and her hero.
She's absolutely been a lifesaver.
You mean that literally?
Quite literally. That dog saved my life.
There you go, kiddo.
Christy, an Army vet, lost both her legs after an attack overseas.
Good girl.
She got Moxie to help with daily tasks. But more importantly, during her darkest days, Christy says her golden retriever was the only thing that stopped her from ending her own life.
The way she would just look at you, her eyes would go right through to your soul. And I felt like I was disappointing her. And so having her by my side was the only reason I didn't kill myself.
Christy is now much better, but she has felt indebted to her dog ever since.
I feel like she deserves so much more.
Unfortunately, there is no good way to repay a debt to a dog.
You're my best buddy.
Especially not the magnitude of debt Christy feels she owes Moxie. Which is why, instead of paying it back, she has come up with the sweetest plan to pay it forward.
Meet Tiny Tim. He's not just any puppy. He's a puppy like her.
I gotta go back to class.
Christy has taken Tim and his bum wing under her wing and is now training the pup to be a therapy dog.
They're working on manners.
Ideally, she'd like him to work full-time here at Leeds Elementary, helping kids who feel broken.
There's just so much about him that is so perfect for this little mission of his. I think the kids are going to say, well, he had all these problems and he didn't give up, and look how happy he is.
But before Tim can be a certified therapy dog,
So soft.
he needs a surgery to amputate his bad leg. Christy had been working multiple jobs to pay for that until this assembly.
A check for $10,000 to pay for all of Tiny Tim's medical expenses.
VetraScience, a pet food supplement company, made the donation, delighting both trainer and trainee.
Okay.
Looks like that debt has been repaid in full.
Moxie saves you. You saved Tiny Tim.
And now Tiny Tim's going to save the town. It's pretty cool.
Very cool, but also exhausting. Steve Hartman on the road in Lewiston, Maine.
An old Irish proverb goes, there are good ships and wood ships, ships that sail the sea, but the best ships are friendships, and may they always be. With that in mind, here's CBS's Steve Hartman on the road.
It can be a lonely job, pulling lobster traps way out here in the middle of the Gulf of Maine. But for 15 years, Captain John Mikowski had company, a faithful companion. In fact, he says, maybe a little too faithful.
She comes right up to the window and is looking at me this far away. I mean, it's just staring at me. You know?
As we first reported last summer, John's stalker girlfriend, who he named Red Eye, just showed up one day and never left. Until she suffered a leg injury. John knew a seagull couldn't live long like that.
How hard was it for him?
Oh, very, very difficult.
John's wife, Debbie.
To watch John and to see how sad he was. I could tear up right now.
I don't know why I was so emotionally crushed, but there was a piece missing. I was beginning to wonder how much longer I felt like doing this.
So, in an attempt to save his passion for the sea, he tried to save that seagull. Actually caught her and brought her to the Center for Wildlife in Cape Nettic, Maine. The staff nursed Red Eye while John spoiled her with brown hake, her favorite kind of fish. And would you believe, just a few weeks later, Red Eye was good as new and ready for the wild once more.
Perfect.
Of course, the wild was never really Red Eye's thing, which is why, still today, no matter where John is in this great ocean,
that's her.
Red Eye somehow finds him.
Atta girl.
Since we first told this story, life has only gotten better for Red Eye.
Picture of Red Eye.
She has now been immortalized in a children's book.
That's Red Eye.
And recently started bringing a new beau to the boat. John named him Hero because he's very protective and adoring. Almost as protective and adoring as the captain, now steering that third wheel. Steve Hartman on the road in the Gulf of Maine. To me, some of the saddest tombstones are the incompletes, the couples where one has passed but the other still present, buried above, under a mound of loneliness, such as the case of Blossom the goose. As we first reported last March, Blossom lost her mate, Bud.
They'd lived on the pond here at Riverside Cemetery in Marshalltown, Iowa. And according to cemetery staff, after Bud died, Blossom's grief was as evident as any human's.
Her behavior was it was quite a change.
General Manager Dory Tommen says Blossom started hanging out near the front office, always staring at herself in the glass or the model tombstones.
She wanted company.
Even if it's just a reflection.
Yeah.
And that's when Dory got a crazy idea. A hysterically lovely, crazy idea. She posted a personal ad that read in part, "Lonely widowed domestic goose seeks life partner for companionship and occasional shenanigans. I'm youthful, adventurous, and lively."
I mean, what are the odds you're going to find some goose, a male goose?
Oh, in Iowa?
Apparently, this state is lousy with bachelor geese. And sure enough, she got a call from Deb and Randy Hoyt, owners of a widower goose named Frankie.
He needed a mate.
Yeah, and plus he's so lonely.
You know, I thought, well, that'll be great, you know.
And so they set up a blind date where Blossom welcomed Frankie with open wings.
They started walking off together, and they haven't really left each other's sides since.
After our first report, which garnered more than 6 million views on Facebook, visitors flocked to see the couple. People sent them Goose gifts and even fan mail, all in appreciation for the lovely reminder to lonely humans everywhere that until your last day is etched in stone, don't ever give up on finding goosebumps. Steve Hartman on the road in Marshalltown, Iowa. Just outside Minneapolis, Brooklyn Park police officers Jeremy Halleck and Tony Weeks were driving around town recently.
Just routine patrol.
When they came across something remarkable.
We just saw a car kind of pulled over. You could tell something was going on. And then as we got closer, you could see that he was giving chest compressions.
Is he giving CPR? I think it is. Look at him.
When the officers got out, they found 19-year-old Chris Felix, who cleans cars at the local Subaru dealership, attempting to revive a little one, who Chris says darted out in front of him and struck his vehicle.
He didn't look like he had any life, you know.
Had you learned CPR before?
Yeah, I learned at high school.
Did you ever think you'd use it?
No, but it's always good to learn something.
And he says you never know when you might be at just the right place, at just the right time, to save a rodent.
I couldn't believe it. He's giving CPR to a squirrel.
Like, it doesn't matter if it's a little life, you know, or a big life. Life is life.
And because he believes life is life, Chris gave it a valiant effort.
Sorry.
I've never seen that before.
Unfortunately, after a minute, there was still no response. The officers say deep down, they knew it was gone.
I did. And then that squirrel took off like a bat out of...
There he goes!
Oh my God! Hey! Oh my God! We got him back!
Just wow. What did we just witness?
Something I'll always remember.
I will always remember it as well.
On the one hand, nothing could be more insignificant. Yet I can even hear it in your voice. This mattered.
Sometimes when nobody's looking and people do the right thing, it kind of shows who they really are.
Not surprisingly, someday Chris would like to go into medicine. And let's hope he does.
There he goes!
Because if he can have this much compassion for roadkill,
Good day, man.
imagine what he could do
Good work.
for his fellow man. Steve Hartman on the road.
Hey, buddy.
In Brooklyn Park, Minnesota.
How can you repay someone who gave you a new chance at life? How about returning the favor? Here's CBS's Steve Hartman on the road.
The Ramapo Bergen Animal Refuge in New Jersey is a shelter of last resort. Megan Brinster runs the place.
Our purpose is really to take the ones that don't have anywhere else to go, and that was Sadie.
Sadie was a big German Shepherd, nearly 100 pounds, and she wasn't great with men, which is why 3 other shelters turned her away, and why Brian Myers,
Good girl.
adopted her.
I thought, let me give this dog a chance because she's beautiful and I think I can work through her issues.
So at the time, you thought you were rescuing her.
Yes, absolutely.
Little did he know he was saving his savior.
I was very lucky to have her on the night that I had the stroke. As soon as I stood up here, I fell straight down.
Brian lives alone.
And my cell phone was over there.
So Sadie was his only hope.
And that's when I grabbed her collar and she pulled me out of this little space here.
Pulled him all the way across the room to his phone.
As far as I know, she's never been trained as a service dog or anything.
How do you explain this?
I can't.
You're so pretty.
Megan thinks she can. She says rescue dogs are often incredibly loyal.
When you have a dog who's lost something, all the dogs that come here have lost a family, a person, or they never quite had that. So when they make that connection, you really become their world.
Good girl.
Brian says Sadie does constantly track him. And obviously, she was at her post that night he needed her most.
Okay.
Brian was rushed here to Inglewood Health in Inglewood, New Jersey. He spent a couple weeks in treatment and rehab. And just before his release, he got a visitor. A very grateful visitor.
she just immediately jumped on me and was kissing my face, knocked my glasses and my mask off, and I just thought, I love this dog.
And you don't need to be Dr. Doolittle to hear Sadie reply, I love you too. Steve Hartman, on the road.
Good girl.
In Teaneck, New Jersey.
This is her favorite spot.
Nothing more special than the love of a dog.
For Atlanta-based food writer Angela Hansberger, this pandemic has been hard to swallow. Can't write about restaurants when they're closed.
I was facing a lot of anxiety. I kind of hid it. Gosh, I'm crying. I was really sad for all the people in the industry that I worked with.
Angela says she had to get her mind off it.
Tarragon.
So, using ingredients from her garden and her encyclopedic knowledge of fine dining, Angela opened her own restaurant on her front porch, where she now serves chipmunk. This chipmunk. The little guy has had a standing lunch reservation for months now. Whether it's veggie pizza and a side salad or imitation sushi with walnut wontons, every day Angela goes to remarkable lengths for her exclusive clientele.
Took a while to try and make little tortillas that I could fold to put the I love the way that you're shaking.
Well, I love how you're realizing how crazy it sounds as you're saying it.
Today, it's mini spaghetti with tiny date meatballs and a thimbleful of breadsticks. The chipmunk, who she named Thelonious Monk, typically arrives within seconds of serving, eats his fill, and packs the rest to go in his cheeky doggy bag.
And the reviews have been good?
The reviews have been great. One day he came up with this little tiny bundle, wadded up leaves, and put it on the table. So I take it to mean he brought a tip.
Still, you get the sense that he remains skeptical, like there's got to be a catch. Angela's cat wishes there was a catch.
There he is.
But there will be none of that, because for Angela, this little bit of silliness has become her daily sustenance.
What has it done for you?
It's brought joy. I have more videos of this chipmunk than I have of my children.
We all need to find a way to cope during this pandemic, which is why I'm giving Chez Angela my highest rodent restaurant rating, 3 stripes. Steve Hartman, CBS News, on the road.
Like a lot of Americans, a woman in upstate New York needed a break from political news on TV. Trust me, I sympathize. But she had no idea she was about to make a life-saving choice. Here is CBS's Steve Hartman on the road.
Of all the choices, all the places you could click,
Do you see how fluffy that is?
all the videos you could surf, why would anyone settle on a sleeping pig?
It had to be one of the least interesting things on the internet.
Yeah, she's not putting on a show or nothing. But it was also the least stressful.
With political tensions roiling, all Laura Palladino wanted that Friday night was a boring animal live stream. Unfortunately, her desire for drama-free programming came to a crashing halt after the pig knocked over a heat lamp, buried it in straw, and set the barn ablaze.
And I started freaking out.
And as if that wasn't enough,
I was the only one watching.
the only one in the world who knew what was happening.
Which is what made my heart sink. There was nothing I could do, and it was terrifying. Yeah.
Laura tried calling the farm, but no one answered. She even tried 911. But what were they going to do? She lived 80 miles away. That's why, deep down, Laura knew it was hopeless. But she kept trying different numbers anyway.
And would you believe?
They busted in.
She finally got a hold of the farmer just in time.
I started crying. This is just a lot. And he was holding her. He's I'm so sorry. You could tell how much he loved those animals. I was oh, yeah. Hi.
Laura.
Yeah.
This week, Laura traveled to June Farms in West Sand Lake, New York to meet farm manager Josh Vicks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Josh had cared for that pig, named Ethel, since it was a piglet.
Definitely inspiring to know that there are other people that feel as much affection and love towards these animals that we do.
The only one uninspired was Ethel herself,
Hi.
who appears to have emerged from the ordeal completely unshaken. The farm can now proceed with its plan to breed Ethel, promising the first piglet will be named
Is that good?
Laura.
Never thought I'd have a pig named after me, but I'll take it.
And we'll take her.
Why not?
As a reminder that most people are heroes, just waiting for their moment.
Hi, girl.
Steve Hartman, on the road near Albany, New York.
Ask any kid what they want for their birthday, and chances are they'll say a puppy. Well, not the kid you're about to meet. He's drawn to the pets that are forgotten by others. Here's Steve Hartman on the road.
8-year-old Robbie Gay loves an underdog. Bring him to the Flagler County Humane Society in Palm Coast, Florida, as we did, and ask him to find a favorite.
Can I get in here?
He will seek out the oldest, mangiest, least adoptable mutt of the lot.
There's something about old dogs, but I just like.
Do you see yourself in these dogs?
Yes, sir.
He knows what it feels like not to be loved and cared for. He's the most hopeful, optimistic, and genuinely caring kid who has absolutely no reason to be that way.
Robbie's adoptive mom, Maria, says before he entered the foster system, Robbie was a holy terror. So badly abused, he was twice hospitalized with brain injuries. Then, 2 years ago, Maria and her husband Charles adopted him.
It was just a good day.
What did that day mean to you?
Everything.
He has come a long way, except in this one respect. Maria says he could not cry, despite the horrors of his past, or maybe because of them. The kid was a stone. Until earlier this month.
One of Robbie's old dogs, Buffy, had to be put down. He wanted to hold her till the very end and insisted his mom take pictures of the process. Perhaps because he knew what was about to happen. After Robbie finally let go, he told his mom, "I know how it feels not to be loved or cared for, and I don't want any animal of mine to feel that way." Nor does he want any foster kid to feel that way.
Because people don't want older people and older dogs. They only want babies and puppies.
He is so aware that it could have gone totally differently for him. And in these older dogs, Robbie's found a place to practice compassion.
Someday, Robbie wants to adopt older foster children himself.
Go up and knock on the door.
But until then, to show his commitment and do what he can, he has vowed to adopt as many old dogs as his parents will allow.
Do you love her?
Today, it's a lame, snaggletooth Shih Tzu named Molly. Molly's owner had to go into assisted living, but now Molly has a new home, thanks to the sweet little boy who sees his reflection in the eyes of the suffering. Steve Hartman, on the road, near Palm Coast, Florida.